Oh, hello. In today's video, we'll be thinking about the Pathfinders kill team, what their data sheets look like, what you should do with them, and what my thoughts are about them. So let's get straight into it. The Pathfinders only have access to the Recon deck, which is a little bit of a disadvantage because I and most other people think that the security deck is the best deck, but that's not to say they're a bad team. In fact, until the most recent round of nerfs and adjustments, they were typically regarded as the strongest faction within Kill Team. So obviously they've overcome their lack of access to the security deck. Interestingly, there's not a lot of options as to how you will equip your models, so there are a few, but there's not that much to think about. I know a lot of people look at these videos from a how am I going to build this team perspective, and I uniquely this time don't really necessarily have the answer to that question because it's something that I'm struggling with myself, and we'll get into that a bit later on. So you've got to take your Shas'la, that's your leader, and then you have 12 slots. So at a maximum you can have 13 models in this team, although often you're going to take 11 because you're going to take the Recon Drone who takes up 2 of your buckets. Okay, so you've got to take a Shas'la, and then you've got 12 buckets to fill, and the Recon Drone takes up 2 buckets. You can have 2 weapons experts. The weapons experts have a choice between the rail rifle and the ion rifle. You are allowed to double up, so there's no reason not to take 2 rail rifles or 2 ion rifles if that's what you've decided that you prefer. And then there are 7 other specialists who are Tau. So if you take those 7 specialists plus your 2 weapons experts, that's 9, which gives you 3 slots left to fill up with drones. There are 6 different drones, but the Recon Drone equals 2 slots. So I kind of think that the default list is a leader, the 2 weapons specialists, all 7 other Tau specialists, and then probably a Recon Drone and 1 other drone. I don't know whether you think there's a case for taking 3 drones, not including the Recon Drone. I think probably not. There might be a case for taking the basic Shas'la, who are the sort of the basic warrior Tau. There might be a case for taking those rather than any drones at all. But we'll think about that as we get on. So let's start off. We're not quite into the data sheets because Tau, I think more than any other team, I don't know, the Legionaries have a lot of rules, but the Tau have a lot of rules. They have a lot of little special things that you have to understand to play them, and a lot of them have been altered with FAQs and balance updates. So let's start with Markerlights. Nearly every model in the Tau kill team has the ability, this Markerlight ability, so you can spend an action point to place a Markerlight onto a model. So let's see, select one enemy operative that has to be visible, and they gain a Markerlight token. An operative can't perform its action if it's within engagement range of an enemy operative. If an operative will perform this action and a shoot action in the same activation, only the target of the shoot action's shooting attack can be selected for this action. So operatives gain, just because I think of these weird kind of things, it would be quite funny if you were playing Tau into the sisters and the Tau player marker lighted a sister, and then they went to shoot the sister, and then the sister used blinding light to stop being a valid shooting attack because say they were on a conceal order. But then because the Tau had marker lit the sister, they wouldn't be able to redirect their shooting onto a second eligible target. That's just something I thought of. So they gain Markerlight tokens, and then depending on how many Markerlight tokens that you stack on them, they get a different debuff, basically. However, your Markerlight tokens phase over time, so every time you ready your operatives, every time you flip over your tokens, all your operatives lose a Markerlight token. This is the enemy operatives, right? So each time you make a shooting attack, you count the benefits, the number of marker light tokens on the thing you're shooting, and you get the marker lights, except with the grenades. Grenades don't benefit from marker lights. So if you manage to get one marker light on your opponent's model, then you get to re-roll an attack dice. If you manage to get two, then you gain the no cover special rule, which remember doesn't mean that you ignore cover for anything to do with line of sight rules. It just means that the opponent can't retain a dice as a benefit of being in cover. 3 marker lights means that you get to improve your BS to 1, which typically will take you to 3 ups to hit rather than 4s. 4 marker lights means that the enemy operative is not obscured, so that's the quality of having intervening heavy terrain that's kind of halfway between you and your opponent. That you can't be obscured by that, so you can kind of ignore that slightly fiddly part of the game. And then 5 marker light tokens they've had to nerf. So originally it was that the enemy operative was always on an engage order. They've modified that to say that unless it's behind heavy terrain, it's counted as being on an engage order. So what this used to mean that if you had someone that was on conceal behind cover, Tau could still shoot them if they had 5 marker light tokens on. Now, at least if you're on heavy cover, then that doesn't work. But what's really funny about this is the massive effect it has on the out-of-box experience for anyone that was playing Chalnath. Because the Chalnath board was all heavy terrain, so on that board it made 5 marker lights go from being amazingly strong to being basically worthless. On a more standard board, on like an Octarius board, they're still pretty good because there's a lot of light cover. Generally, the ramparts at the top of the buildings are light and the walls are light. So, yeah. Art of War. So this comes from your leader. And every time you activate your leader, you can choose either to do Montcar or Kion. Montcar, each time a friendly operative is activated, if it has an engage, it can perform a free dash, which is pretty good. It turns you into Eldar. Kion, before rolling your defense dice, if you're in cover, an additional dice can be retained as a normal result of cover. I think Montcar is the better of those two. It's the less situational one. Maybe Kion is the one you're going to go for in the first turn if you've been able to get into cover and you think your opponent's going to have shots on you and maybe you didn't want to go conceal. I don't know. Difficult to see when Kion's actually that useful. Montcar, though, I think is pretty good. And then drones. Drones have a lot of rules. So artificial intelligence. You can't do mission actions and you can't pick things up. If you're trying to control an objective, then the drone counts as having only 1 APL. So it's not going to be able to swoop in and contest an objective that the other player has a model on, because they're going to have at least 2 APL. Each time a shooting attack is made against a drone in the roll defense dice stage, if you have an engage order, the defense dice cannot be automatically retained as a result of cover, because the drones can't hide behind cover, so they're easy to, because they're not that clever, so they're easy to shoot and kill. When drawing a visibility line from a drone, draw it from any part of the round disc at the top of the miniature, because that's the drone's head. I guess they had to define the head because it doesn't have a head, and it can't be given equipment. Savior protocols, the other part of drones. So each time a friendly Pathfinder, excluding drones, is selected as the target of a shooting attack, if there's a friendly drone visible within circle, not within engagement range, and if that friendly drone operative is not protecting any other operatives, it can protect the Pathfinder operative until the end of the turning point. If it does so until the end of the turning point, each time a shooting attack is made against that friendly Pathfinder operative, make the shooting attack against that friendly drone operative instead, even if it would not be a valid target. In the roll's defense dice step of the shooting attack, defense dice cannot be automatically retained as a result of cover, because this represents the drone moving, like dashing in front and trying to catch the bullet for its other operative, for the other guy, so it wouldn't get the benefit of cover because it abstractly, it bobs out of cover to get in the way of the shot, right? Now, they have to clarify this slightly until the end of the turning point or until they're no longer within circle of each other. So if you elect, if your Pathfinder is shot, your operative is shot at, you say, I'm going to let this drone protect me, and then you have a turn and you move either the drone or the Pathfinder away, you can't say that they're still protected, because they're protected until the end of turn, which makes intuitive sense, but rules as written it was not always the case. And friendly Pathfinder operatives can't be protected by saviour protocols from shooting attacks made against each operative within range of a specified point, e.g. a remote mine, or the subsequent attacks from blast or torrent, because they're not a, thematically, they're not a bullet that the drone, or like a projectile that the drone can interpose and get in the way of. They're kind of a big cloud of fire. And there's also an FAQ about these. When drones are protecting a friendly operative and the protected operative is targeted by a weapon that makes subsequent attacks, blast torrents, do you determine the distance from the protected operative or the drone? Again, it's the protected operative. You're ignoring the drone once the protected operative is being attacked by a blast weapon or a torrent weapon or something like that. So there's a lot to take in there before we get into the data sheets, and it amuses me when you consider how few extra bonus rules like this some of the other teams have. There's a lot of text. So if you're looking at the data sheets in a minute and you're thinking that some of them look a bit lackluster, just remember I've got all this text to think about. There's a lot of rules. I wonder if some of it could be cut down. There's a lot of bits and pieces to remember. I'm definitely thinking I've played games against Pathfinders where, especially some of the disadvantages of drones, have been forgotten by I'm not saying my opponents were cheating, but it's hard to remember all this stuff. And if what you've been asked to remember is a disadvantage, then it's not something that you're gonna be kind of subconsciously motivated to remember that you can do. So things like drones having their APL as one lower, when they're on objectives, I'm fairly sure, and this is going back a bit, I'm fairly sure I've played games where neither of us have remembered that that was a thing. Because it's one of those things with all Warhammer games. To be really good at the game, you don't just need to know your rules inside out, you really need to know everybody's rules inside out so that you can remember to prompt your opponent, oh hey, these guys actually have this built-in disadvantage. So yeah, do they need to be that complicated? I'm not sure. I'm not sure I like this from a game design point of view. There's a lot of little exceptions and things, but they are obviously a strong team. So here's your boss. He's a confused model, in that he has a bonding knife, so he's actually better at close combat than most of the other Tau, and he has this holographic readout, which means that once per battle, a friendly Pathfinder operative activated within blue, then they can do a mission action for 1 less AP. I don't think you're going to want to move him up to do that, because I think you're going to want to hide him at the back so you get his Art of War every turn. I think the best use of this is if you're playing a scenario, secure Archaeotech, where you've got to unlock the thing and pick it up. If you've got the one that's in your home field and you've deployed bunched up at the start of the game, then you can have someone near the leader, activate them, use this ability to give them that bonus mission action so that they can move forward, unlock the objective, and then pick it up. Or potentially, if it's slightly further away, I can't remember, maybe it's a move and then a dash and then pick it up, but then hopefully they're getting their free dash from your Art of War, right? So they're getting the free dash, they're doing the move, they're using their free mission action to unlock, and then they can pick it up with their other mission action, right? That something like that, or they could shoot if there was a target. He's also got this dedicated determining technician, so for 2 command points, which is a lot of command points, if he's still alive, you can use this to give yourself the Art of War ability used in the previous turning point. So that's only useful if you wanted to swap from one to the other, you could have a little bubble of the one you had previously that's a bubble of red, which is really situational, and you can only do it once, so it's really situational, but it's potentially really powerful if you happen to get into the situation where it's useful. I'm sure the veteran Pathfinder players will be able to think of exactly how you want to use this to get your free. I feel like you'd be using it, I don't know, because I reckon you're always going to be a monk card in the monk card, the free dash in the first turn, because it's just that good. Whereas the other one is to do with getting an extra cover save. I guess if you found yourself swapping into that, but you can still get a few dashes out, it could be very useful, but it is expensive at 2 CP. Just something to bear in mind when we're thinking about the Sashui. Your weapons expert. So this is another one that's quite cerebral to think about it. Remember, you can have 2 of these armed with your choice of an ion rifle or a rail rifle, and you're allowed to double up. Thinking about which one is better is not really straightforward. So you've got the ion rifle first of all, that gets 5 dice. Basic profile is 4/5 with piercing 1 on a crit. You can choose to go hot, and then you get AP1, so it's not as good as a plasma in that regard, but it goes up to 5/6, but you do get the problem of being hot. Alternatively, you've got the rail rifle, which is 1 less dice, but it's 4/4, AP1, lethal 5 up, and mortal wounds 2, so you've got a decent chance of getting at least a couple of crits and getting those mortal wounds across. I feel like you need to roster both of these, so you need to build 4 of them and really think about your opposing team. And if you have a really deep knowledge of all the teams in Kill Team, so for example, the Talons have Aegis of the Emperor, which means that they can elect to take the damage as if it was a normal hit, but you'd still get the mortal wounds on them. So then the rail rifle's pretty good, because they can't buy off the 2 mortal wounds. But against Plague Marines, who can just say no, your crit's actually a normal hit with a command point, maybe be better off with the ion rifle, because you know that 5 normal damage is more normal damage. I'm sure wound thresholds are also a factor. I feel like against a lot of teams you're more likely to kill them with an ion rifle just because you're throwing 3 dice, and 5 is a solid number for a normal hit versus 4. So if you are playing against a team where you can kill them in 2 normals, you know, if you've rather than 2 normals with the rail rifle, maybe that's a factor as well. But mastering this will take a lot of thought and a lot of knowledge about all the other teams in the game. But not mastering it, failing to master it, taking the ion rifle when you might technically have been better with the rail rifle, or vice versa, isn't going to cost you that much, because ultimately they're really similar. And if you only have 1 box, my advice to you is probably just to build the 2. I'd build 2 the same, and I'd build... My gut is that the ion rifle is the pick more of the time than the rail rifle, but I don't know if I can back that up. That's just my gut feel, and it's probably just because I like plasma guns, and it's the one that's close to a plasma gun. But the rail rifle also has the AP1, and it has that lethal 5 up and that 2 mortal wounds, and it doesn't have get hot, so maybe in a lot of ways it's more reliable, but you're getting 1 less dice. And so the ion rifle with more dice and the higher base damage, I think the ion rifle's probably, like, in isolation, probably the better pick. The rail rifle, though, is still very good and definitely has situations where you'd prefer the rail rifle, like against Custodes is one example. Yeah. Bloodied. So he's an interesting guy. He's like a ninja. He's got a silenced carbine. So his carbine's not amazing, but it does have silence. You can keep him concealed all the time. He's got a bionic arm, so he's actually pretty good in combat. He's got a 4-up save, which I reckon some people have probably overlooked, because Games Workshop are really bad at putting in typos for things and then fixing their typos, but he is supposed to have 4-up save. So he's clearly kind of doing moving up, skirmishing forwards, skulking around, blapping off shots from cover and conceal with his carbine, and then when he gets charged, because he's moved up and he's in cover and concealment, he can still have a decent enough go at punching somebody with his bionic arm. Pretty cool model. I mean, you could keep him back and use him as a sniper, but a 4-5 silenced weapon, and you're not using his bionic arm, not really making use of his improved saved. He's clearly supposed to be going up there and trying to get contest objectives, you know, and you've not got that many Tau that want to be moving up and tangling with the enemy, so that's what I would use him for, and just take advantage of the fact that while moving him up, you can keep him concealed all the time without really losing anything. The drone controller. Now we're going to revisit the Recon Drone again, but I had to put the rules on here as well to talk about them. The drone controller does a lot. It has a lot of text on his card. So first of all, just by taking the drone controller, you can set up a drone with a conceal order anywhere on a kill zone wholly within red of your drop zone, and more than red from enemy operatives and more than blue from the enemy drop zone. So taking the Recon Drone and getting that forward deployment with the Recon Drone is pretty good. It does mean that your Recon Drone is on a conceal, but of course you can always take the scouting move where you flip an order, so you can flip him to attack when you want to activate him to get that shot with the burst cannon, and that's, I imagine that's a pretty common play with the Recon Drone. And then with the control drone action, so for 1 AP, your drone controller can tag another drone that is ready, and after your activation ends, you can then activate that drone straight away. And when it's activated in that way, it doesn't have the first 3 bullet points of its artificial intelligence ability, which would mean that it doesn't count as having less APL when holding objectives, and it can do mission actions and pick things up, which is pretty cool, especially because you've forward deployed a drone. Also means that a drone that's been activated, if you do it on one that's been activated, you can perform a bonus shoot action, which might actually be the better pick in terms of, you know, yeah, you're not getting 2 activations on the trot, which is powerful, but you're getting potentially a second activation of shooting your burst cannon, although admittedly with -1 ballistic skill. But that's pretty cool. What you used to be able to do and you can't do anymore is chain the drone controller and the Recon Drone. So if you look, the drone controller can activate the drone. The Recon Drone also has Analyze, which means he can select an enemy operative and then a ready friendly Pathfinder. And after the operative's activation ends, you can activate the other friendly operative, and during its activation, each time it makes a shooting attack against the enemy operative. In the roll attack dice step of the shooting attack, you can re-roll any roll of your attack dice, which will potentially let you do kind of 3 things at once. You could activate the drone controller, shoot or marker light something, then activate the Recon Drone and get it to analyze something and shoot with it, and then activate analyze target, which is a little depressive. They changed that with the new core rules, so you can only do 2 things. You only do 2 things ever. You can only activate 2 things on the bounce ever. I haven't put it on this page. I have put it on the Recon Drones page, but do note that the defense characteristic of the Recon Drone has been changed to 3 in the FAQ. I'm taking the drone controller. I am going to forward deploy the Recon Drone, but I'm probably going to use my drone control to get a free shot with the burst cannon after the Recon Drone's used, or I'm going to use it to double activate my other drone, because I don't want to double activate this drone because I don't want to waste the Analyze ability that I have to get another double activation somewhere else in my turn, probably. Right, Transpectral Interference. He's a really interesting little fellow. So he has his multispectral sensor that means that he ignores obscured, which is pretty good. It makes it very easy for him to get non-reciprocal shooting without having to be really good at the game and position yourself so that you're peeking around a corner, because you can quite easily shoot someone who is obscured to you, and then they can't shoot you back because you'll be obscured to them, which is good. And he also has System Jam, where he can subtract someone's APL, which I think really screws with the ability of some teams to do scenario play, where there has to be an APL kind of burned on carrying out a mission action, right? So that's good. I think this guy's main thing is to be guarding an objective. You move him up kind of behind your bloodied, and you get him to try and babysit an objective. You can use his System Jam to stop other people coming in to take it. He can shoot there in such a way they can't shoot back. Yeah, positive. Otherwise, if you just try to use him as a general damaging piece, it'll be hard to get him in the right place at the right time. You've got to get him somewhere where you know the enemy's going to want to come with you. So I think babysitting an objective is the way to go with the Transpectral Interference fellow. Assault Grenadier. So the Assault Grenadier took a little nerf. He used to have the ability Grenadier. The operative is equipped with an EMP, a fusion, and photon grenades. They don't cost any equipment points, and they have those that have their own dispatch rule can be set if the operative twice. They got rid of that, so you can only throw each grenade one time. Now that he used to be bananas. Like, a lot of people would go on and on about Pathfinders being broken because of all kinds of things. For my money, the most broken thing about Pathfinders was the fact that he could throw a few fusion grenades, because the fusion grenade is mind-bogglingly good. Right, 4 dice, hitting on 3s, 4-3, but on a crit it does 6, and it's AP2. Like, it just erases people. It's like a crack grenade on steroids. So, big fan of the fusion grenade, big fan of the fact that he gets one for free. When he's used this fusion grenade, EMP grenade's fine. It's basically a frag grenade. It has a funny little rule where if you hit someone with armor, it gains the lethal X special rule where X is their armor. So against 3-up saves, it has lethal 3-up, so it's always going to do 3 damage. But to the kind of unit that is wearing power armor, 3 damage is only really going to be chip damage. Happy days is if you manage to get a cluster of 3-up save things, so you can do 3 damage to 4 or 5 guys easily. That would be really cool. But yeah, it's an interesting one. But again, he gets it for free. I don't know how necessarily buy an EMP grenade, but he gets it for free, and he can use it. It's probably going to do more damage than his pulse carbine is, if he manages to get one of those clusters. Otherwise, shoot your fusion grenade, and then other than that, use him as a standard guy. Bear in mind, he does also have his nanocrystalline headgear, which lets him ignore APL modifiers, weapon skill, and business skill characteristics and modifiers. So, yeah, that means that when he's injured, he still just keeps on trucking, which is good. Yeah, he's been toned down, but he still gets a free fusion grenade, which is an extra 4 EP, which is really good. Fusion grenades are ridiculous. Communication specialist, he's a comms guy. I'm not saying he's bad, because comms guys are good. You know, people have them in teams and run them. There's just not that much more to say at this point about a comms guy. They do comms guy things. Likewise, you've got the medic guy that does the medic thing, and there's not that much to talk about really. He can't medic drones, which is worth mentioning. He can only medic the biological Tau. He does the standard medic things. He's had the standard medic little patch where it's been made crystal clear that he can't medic himself when he dies. But apart from that, yeah, it's a medic. It's worth having, but it's just a medic. Well, I haven't changed the title on this slide. Hang on, in a fit of absolute professionalism, I'll do that now. Hang on. So I get my pen here. I just make it very clear that we're not talking about the medical technician. We're talking about the marksman pathfinder. That's this guy down here. He's got a novel thing. He's got a sniper rifle that is, 3/3 mortal wounds to AP1 silent, and then if you want to, you can choose to go loud, so you can in exchange for trading away your silent, you can give yourself an extra point of damage, and also you gain that lethal 5+, so you're more likely to get your 2 mortal wounds to come through. He also has the ability to get Overwatch at full ballistic skill, which is pretty good. I think an idea for a video that I have is to go through all the different factions, sort of silent sniper characters, and rank them, because it's quite funny. Whereas the medic and the comms sort of archetype, when they appear, they're basically identical, with a couple of exceptions like the Corsairs. But snipers are always slightly different in every iteration. Like, they always have a slightly different gun that works slightly differently. I think that's a fun video idea that I'll do at some point in the future, is just to go through and look at everybody's, who's got the best sniper, right? Because it's a really common kill team archetype. Yeah. Right, and then your basic Shas'la. So here's the guy you can spam. You can take 12 of them if you want. You won't ever want to take 12. But like I was saying at the start, potentially he's better than some of the drones. We're going to look at the drones in a minute. This is the last of our biological Tau blue guys that we're going to look at. We're going to look at the drones now. I'm struggling with this. I'm really not sure whether it's worth building and rostering any Shas'las, or whether you're always going to want to take a couple of drones. Obviously they've got the advantage that they can interact with new mission actions, and they've got a gun. Yeah, let me know in the comments, because the thing is, I'm doing a live stream at the moment. I'm hoping to, I'll talk more about this at the end, where I'm building the Tau Pathfinder team from kit, and I'm trying to decide exactly how many things I need to build. So do let me know about that in the comments. By the way, we're about halfway through the video, but if you're enjoying the video and you want to come back and see more videos, potentially join in the live stream tonight if it happens, things like that, please do subscribe to the channel. We're getting pretty close to 500. Exciting things happen when you get to 1,000 subscribers. Somebody in my comments the other day, I think it was even on the failed live stream video, was kind enough to say that this is a criminally undersubscribed channel. And really, YouTube opens up when you get to the 1,000 subscribers in terms of the tools and things that you get. So that would really help me out. Thank you so much, and let's carry on with the video. So the Recon Drone, we've already looked at the Recon Drone. I've remembered to put the errata on the slide this time to change the defense characteristic to 3. The Recon Drone, I think, is very good. People have gone off him a little bit since he was debuffed, or I should say nerfed, and you can't chain his the analyze ability with the drone controller ability. But he's still got a burst cannon, and burst cannons are really good. And he's still got this recon suite thing, which means that you can do a free dash in your scouting step in addition to anything else. So if you're taking a recon drone, then, and perhaps it makes you annoyingly predictable, but if you're taking a recon drone, then you're gonna take the change orders thing to get the forward deploy and then able to go on the offensive with your recon drone, and you also get to dash someone else, so that's pretty cool. But it does cost you a body, right? He takes up 2 buckets, and so you could have 2 basic Tau warriors instead of your recon drone, and that does bear consideration. But I like the burst cannon, and I like the analyze, even though you can't chain it, is still good. Getting the forward deploy and then being able to use your 2 AP to do your burst cannon and then analyze is, I think, a good use. More than you'd get from a standard Tau warrior, but the Tau warrior does have the flexibility to do mission actions. Let me know what you think. I think we're still taking recon drones though, most of the time. The gun drone, happy little gun drones. So again, there's this thing where they can't do the mission actions or easily contest objectives, but they have fly, and that extra maneuverability is pretty cool. And you can buy off their inability to do mission actions with your drone controller if he's still alive. Apart from the Recon Drone, he's the only drone with a gun, and I'm kind of thinking that the default loadout is all the specialists, and then you take the Recon Drone and the gun drone. Let me know if I'm way off the mark with that. His RAM is not as good as it appears on the card. That was a misprint. It's supposed to be 2/3 like all the other drones. And he has a standard pulse carbine, but it gains relentless. So I think, yeah, I think the standard loadout is all the specialists, the Recon Drone and the Gun Drone, but you tell me if you think those drone slots are better with different drones, or if they're better with the standard spammable warriors. Marker drone. So the marker drone gets a high intensity marker light, it's a free piece of war gear. It's not bad, but I just think you're giving up a lot. Like, I'd rather have a gun. I'd rather have either a tower with a gun or a gun drone with a gun than have a free high intensity marker light. I could buy the high, if I wanted a high intensity marker light that badly, I could buy one and put it on the tower warrior that I'd take instead of the marker drone, and that's, yeah, the lack of his ability to do anything upsets me. But if you really like the high intensity marker light and you've already taken them and you want more, then yeah, it's not a bad pick. Maybe I'm dead wrong. Maybe the Tau, you know, the elite Tau players who were winning tournaments with Pathfinders are going to tell me, no, always the marker drone, because, you know, you need to have as many marker light sources as possible to get up to those 5 marker lights. It's very possible. But personally, off the top of my head, which is what these videos almost always are, I can't see taking a marker drone. Right, Pulse Accelerator drone. It's an okay buff, but I'm not convinced it's worth the slot. Let's look at this. So, while a friendly Pathfinder operative is within blue of this operative, pulse weapons that friendly operative is equipped with are accelerated. While a pulse weapon is accelerated, each time a shooting attack is made with it in your roll attack dice step of that shooting attack before rolling your attack dice, you can retain a successful normal hit without rolling it. The problem here is you can buff your pulse attacks, or you could take an extra Tau or a gun drone and get an extra pulse rifle, like the whole thing. So to make this as good as having the opportunity cost, you're having to really cluster your guys to get a lot of people within that blue radius of the pulse accelerator drone, and that means you know, frag grenades become an issue. Now, whether you take him just to buff, now the ion rifle's not a pulse weapon, the sniper rifle's not a pulse weapon. I don't think you've got, you could take him to buff the Recon Drone? Maybe I'm missing something in terms of which is a pulse weapon and which isn't, but there's not like a really heavy pulse weapon apart from the one on the Recon Drone that you've taken this guy just to buff like a really strong weapon. Because that would be, if your sniper rifle was a pulse weapon, you could sit this guy next to your sniper to make him better and to give him the benefit of the Saviour protocols. And I kind of see that as a buff for one specific piece. But if you're just buffing your general pulse carbines, you're better off just with an extra pulse carbine, aren't you? Let me know if I've missed an obvious combo. Grav inhibitor drone. Now this is an interesting one that I think is an edge case pick against pure combat teams. It's not something you put in your team 9 times out of 10, but if you're setting up against a team that you know wants to come up and charge you, that's their main way of killing you, then maybe the Grav inhibitor drone is the way you want to do that. So, Grav inhibitor. Each time an enemy operative performs a charge action, if it would move within red, so that's better than it seems, because if it would move within red, they don't have to start within red, if it would move within red, only add black to the additional distance it can move instead of white. Each time an enemy operative performs a dash action, if it would move within red, it can only move up to white instead of blue. That can really help you out. If you know that you're fighting a team like Tyranids or potentially like Demons, where their main thing is they're going to have to run headlong towards you, you can sit this Grav inhibitor drone at the back, anchoring your kind of heavy weapons guys and your sniper, and just potentially make it really awkward for the opponent to get those charges on you and give you an extra turn of shooting them. Then it could be really, really good. I feel like on paper at least, the Grav inhibitor drone only against combat forces, but it could be really cool. It's also got this Grav wave ability, so it can fire out this Grav wave token a distance of red. You sit it on the table, and then while you're within white of the center of that token, you can fall back for free. Again, potentially really good if, again, you're fighting against someone that's gonna assault you If they don't kill you in the first round of combat, and they probably will, but if they don't, then you can fall back for free. But because you've fallen back, you still can't shoot, I think, right? Because that's a condition of the fallback action. So the Grav Wave token is less useful, but I quite rate the Grav Inhibitor. The trouble is, what are you doing with this thing? You can't give it equipment. You don't need to use your action points to do the Grav Inhibitor. Maybe you'll just, if you've got something in your deployment zone, which you need to mission action, you can use your drone controller to buy off this guy's, but then you're wasting that as well, aren't you? So I don't know what you do with it. You just end up passing its, just sitting there being a happy little drone, passing its activation. So you're kind of losing out on having another worthwhile piece, but I just do think against the right forces, the Grav Inhibitor could be really, really key. Equipment. So we've gone through all data cards now, and we have already looked at the grenades. So I'm going to mention everything else. I really like the Orbital Survey uplink. You can only take one. It does cost 2 action points, but it lets you select an enemy, and that operative and anybody within black of it gains a marker light token if they're visible to an orbital scan. And to not be visible, obviously they have to be directly under something with a roof, right? So you imagine a bird's eye view of the table. If any part of its base is hidden from that bird's eye view, they can't be orbitally scanned. Remember that you take equipment after you've looked at the table, so you'll know how much of that roof. On some tables there'll be almost no roofs. It's one of those things that makes Octarius a bit divisive between the players who want to do the Warhammer World thing of having half of the Octarius big buildings just be walls, and the players that wanted to do that but built them with floors, and then they put a marker on to say you can't stand on the floor, but then if you're playing Tau you have to be like, but is the floor still there for the purposes of the orbital survey? So that's a little conversation to have with that one. I like it. I think a lot of people will deploy a little bit clustered up, usually able to find 2 or 3 operatives within an inch of each other, and I think it's a good way of getting free marker lights on people that you can't otherwise see and shoot. I prefer it to the high intensity marker light. High intensity marker light is not bad. It gives you 2 marker light tokens instead of 1 when you marker light somebody, you know, and the target analysis optic isn't bad either. That lets you count as being 1 marker light ahead of where you are. That could be good on a sniper or one of your heavy gun guys. The reason, I mean, they're all cool pieces of equipment. The reason I'm down on them is just that fusion grenade skewing the thing, because I think it's really good. Maybe I'm over-egging the pudding, but that is the best grenade in the game, isn't it? And it's 4 equipment points. You're only taking 2 of them, but it's the best grenade in the game. The drone repair kit seems super situational. It lets you medic drones. I wouldn't bother. For 2 equipment points, there's better things to take. And the climbing equipment, you might end up taking it if you had 1 equipment point to spend. So if you've taken your orbital survey uplink and a fusion grenade, and then you maybe take a target analysis or high intensity, and you've got 1 point left, the only way you can spend it on is climbing equipment. Remember that you buy the equipment after you've seen your deployment zone, so a good shout might be onto your sniper or heavy weapons guy. If you can see, oh, I'm going to move there, and then I'm going to use my climbing equipment to get up onto this vantage point, you know, and then I'll still have the I won't have had to use my dash, so I'll be able to shoot off that vantage point. I don't think you're going to be doing the thing that sometimes people do with commandos, where people just go, oh, I'm 10 climbing ropes, okay? I don't think that's going to happen. But it's a nice to have. I like to see a 1 EP piece of equipment on every team's equipment list. Ploys! So we'll start by talking about worthy cause. A worthy cause used to be thoroughly obnoxious. You could use it at the start of every firefight phase, select a Pathfinder operative that's within blue of an enemy operative or within white of an objective marker, and you could activate it. And then the player that won initiative activates as normal, so you could, like, this was the stupid thing that Tau could do, where they could worthy cause somebody, and then they could worthy cause from them into the drone controller, and then the drone controller could go into the Recon Drone, and the Recon Drone into somebody else, and effectively be activating 4 guys. They've shut that right down, so it can only be used when you don't have initiative. So to get a guy, it's still useful, but you can only use if you don't have initiative. It costs 2 CP, and you can only have it once per battle. Now there might still be times, there's definitely been times when I've been playing and there's been a situation on a knife edge, and it's definitely been, whoever rolls initiative, like both players know, you'll have a character in each side in jeopardy, both players have initiative, and they roll, and whichever one wins is going to kill the other. Like, everyone's been in that situation in Kill Team. This still, for the 2 CP, if you manage not to spend your CP and have 2 CP in your back pocket, means that if you find yourself in that situation once per game, you can go, no, my guy's going first and he shoots you in the head. Okay? And that still is good, but it's no longer this really oppressive, obnoxious thing. So great move, Games Workshop. I like reposition as well on the bottom on tactical ploys. Reposition is really good. Use it in the firefight phase when a friendly Pathfinder is activated. Until the end of its activation, it can perform a dash action if it's within engagement range of an enemy operative. And when it performs the action, it can move within engagement range of enemy operatives, but cannot finish the move within engagement range of enemy operatives. So what it means is, if I'm reading it correctly, is that you can dash out of combat, and then because you've dashed rather than fallen back, you can shoot them in the face, which is, okay, yes, it's pretty rare in this game that you're going to be charged and then be alive, because usually when there's combat, somebody dies, but if you do find yourself in a combat that started previous turn, you can use reposition to dash out of combat and then shoot them in the face, I think, which sounds pretty good. Supporting fire is more situational, so use a tactical ploy in a firefight phase when a shoot action is declared. In the select valid target step, you must select an enemy operative within engagement range of a friendly operative and within red of the active operative, and the enemy operative cannot be in cover as a result of friendly operatives' bases. Note, however, in the roll defense die step of the attack, the enemy operative can be in cover as a result of friendly operative bases. Like it, really situational. Do I even understand what that does? When a shoot action is declared for a friendly Pathfinder operative in the select valid target step of that shooting attack, you must select an enemy operative that's within engagement range of a friendly operative and within red of the active operative, and that enemy operative cannot be in cover as a result of the friendly operative. So it lets you kind of shoot through a friend. It's fine. Yeah. It lets you shoot into combat. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, by the way, my stepson has started shouting, and he's like upstairs in another room, and if you could hear a little voice in the background, maybe the microphone isn't picking it up, let me know. But he's shouting away. I think he's playing Minecraft on the phone or something. But all while I was putting the PowerPoint together, all morning until about 2 PM, he was silent as a mouse. And now, once I'm recording, he starts yelling. Gosh. Anyway, family interlude. Strategic ploys. Recon sweep, take cover, bonded, and determined tactician. We've talked about determined tactician, so I'll gloss over it. Recon sweep is very good. Recon sweep is one of those abilities that you're going to use quite a lot, I think. It's 1 CP, and if you're wholly within red of a kill zone edge, you can do a free dash. And only if you finish wholly within red of a kill zone edge. So, and not your own kill zone edge. But you don't have note that you can be within red of your own kill zone edge to become eligible, as long as you finish within red of a kill zone edge. It's not your kill zone edge. So what it lets you do is it lets you come up the sides in like a pincer movement at the start of the game. Quite often, apart from the very centre of the board, there'll be a central corridor that isn't within red of the edge of the 2 side edges. But I think Recon Sweep's really good, especially first turn, just to get up there. Not that you necessarily want to get all of your Pathfinders moving, but it does give you that option too. That's what you want to do. Take cover you'll use when appropriate. So at the end of the turning point, every time a shooting attack is made against a friendly Pathfinder operative, if it's in cover, improve its save by 1. If you get to the start of the turn, you notice you have a lot of guys in cover, then you can turn on take cover. If you only have 1 or 2 guys in cover, then don't turn on take cover. It's just an extra enhancement when you realise that a lot of your team is in cover. Bonded I don't like so much, so it's okay. Each time a friendly Pathfinder operative makes a shooting attack, in the roll attack dice step of the shooting attack, if it's within blue of another friendly Pathfinder operative, you can reroll one of your attack dice. Like, there's a lot of for rerolling an attack dice. I don't like bunching people up unless I'm getting a really good bonus. Bunching people up because I might want to use bonded is a thing. But if I find that my characters are bunched together, I might choose to use bonded to get some benefit for the fact that I've had to bunch my characters together. Okay, that's the ploys done. Tac Ops 3, as usual. I like mark enemy movements. So mark enemy movements is the one where if you get at least half of the enemy operatives marker lit, then you score a VP. But you do have to get at least 3 enemy operatives marker lit to score that VP. So don't kill. If you absolutely slaughter your opponent, you could potentially lock yourself out of that last VP. And it does mean that you can't mark light, because often when you mark light somebody, you then want to go on to shoot them. Like you marker light one guy, get him up to a bunch of marker lights, and then execute him. This kind of gets you to marker light a lot of people. I think though, because your recon deck is not the best deck, you want to sub a couple of things out of there. So mark enemy movements is one that I'd probably go for. Patient Hunter is a little bit win more. At the end of a turning point, if you score more victory points than your opponent for the mission objective during that turning point, and more than half your operatives rounding down have a conceal, you score an extra VP. If you achieve the first condition in a subsequent turning point, you score another VP. If you win in, then you'll get this, and if you're not, then you won't. But again, because the recon deck's not the security deck, you've probably got 1 or 2 things you're going to try and get rid of anyway. But it's one that I'd put in there, but then I wouldn't necessarily always want to take it in the draw when it came up as one of my 2 things to choose from. Killing Blow seems difficult to me. Could be because I'm not very good at kill team. Basically, you have to be really winning to get Killing Blow. You have to have done more wounds to them than they've done to you. So it's at the end of a turning point. If the total wounds characteristic of enemy operatives that were incapacitated during the turning point is greater than the total wounds characteristic of friendly operatives that were incapacitated during that turning point, and more than half your guys have an engage order, you score a VP. Again, it could be doable. Maybe I throw it in there. It just seems a little bit difficult to guarantee, but then you got 4 turns. If you're good at the game, then you're going to probably, if you're good at getting the shots, then maybe this is something you're going to get. Final thoughts. Have I missed anything super obvious? Let me know if there are any combinations for Pathfinders that are really obvious to people that I haven't mentioned at all. What would you roster for Pathfinders? So if you've got an answer to my do you take any basic warriors or are you always taking drones question, please give me that answer. Those of you that are avid followers of the channel will know that I tried to live stream last night and we just got everything working and then my camera promptly went out of battery. So depending on whether Amazon or when Amazon deliver the AC adapter for the camera, I may live stream tonight. We actually are building, or I'm actually building, a Pathfinder kill team live on stream and talking about that and generally just rambling on. If that's your kind of thing, then look forward to that going live. And then the other question that I've got is, what team should I run down next? So these faction rundown articles are kind of the filler thing that I do when there's nothing new to talk about and I haven't had anything particularly novel that I've thought about. I think people enjoy them, but I really would love to know which ones I should do next. So for reference, I've done Ecclesiarchy. I haven't yet done Novitiates. I'm kind of scared to do Novitiates because Novitiates is the one team I'm supposed to know inside and out. And so I need to actually make that one good. Haven't done Talons of the Emperor. I could do Talons of the Emperor. I haven't done Hunter Clade. It might be quite interesting to do Hunter Clade. I'm not going to do Forge World because they have been kind of depreciated. I could do Krieg. I have built my Krieg. I feel like Krieg is like... But if Pathfinders are a bit of a Rube Goldberg machine, Krieg is such a Rube Goldberg machine where everything is interdependent on everything else that I feel even more intimidated by that because I know that there are people out there who are like wizards with the Vet Guard. I'm probably not going to do Imperial Guard just because Vet Guard exists. Grey Knights I could do. That would be quite a fun and quite an easy one. Space Marines, I'm not going to do those at the moment because if I do Compendium Space Marines, I want to do them in the context of now of knowing what the new bespoke Space Marine team is going to be. We know what it is, but knowing fully its rules. Chaos Demons would be an interesting one to do, if there's interest in that. So I've done both Traitor Space Marines and Legionaries, and I've done Death Guard. I'm not going to do Thousand Suns. I could do Warp Coven. That's a possibility. I've done Corsairs. I'm possibly not going to do Craft World, because Corsairs exist. I've done Comorites. I've done the Void Dancer Troop. I've not done the Wormblade. I could do Wormblade. I've kind of done Wormblade because I kind of reviewed them when they came out, but I don't feel like I've fully done them. I don't know. Maybe I feel like I've done Wormblade. I have to go and double check how in detail that Wormblade video was, because it was more of a hey look White Dwarf rather than a this is methodically what I think about each one. Tomb World I've done. Haven't done Commandos, could do, and haven't done Greenskins, probably won't. Haven't done Kroot. I could do Kroot. Be a bit funny, but I could do Kroot. And I've done both Tau now, and I've done the old Compendium Tau as well. Haven't done Hive Fleet, could do Hive Fleet. So let me know what you'd like me to do a rundown on as well. I did mention it in the middle of the video. Please do subscribe. If you're watching it and you're not subscribed, I won't ask you to click the bell though, because it's really annoying. Like, I really find it's obnoxious when you're trying to do something and it's constantly popping up like, oh, this guy that you watch on YouTube's uploaded a video, and you're like, that's great, but right now I'm trying to do something else, you know. So don't, unless you really want to click the bell, I wouldn't recommend it, honestly, but subscription is really helpful and key. Like the video if you like it. I'm about 70p off getting another £10 payout from Element Games, so if you are thinking of buying anything, thank you so much to all the people who have purchased things from Element Games while the channel's been up. I've made about £15 in commission from Element Games, and I'm about one more decent purchase away from making another £10 in commission from Element Games, and that does help. You know, I'm starting to try and do things like live streaming, which just does cost a little bit of money, even though I've been able to borrow the camera. Things like the stand and the AC adapters and bits of cables do cost money, so that's appreciated. I don't mind spending a bit of money. It is a hobby, not a job, but you know, anything that people can do to support that little bit of financial outlay does help me. There's a Noble Knight Games link in the description as well, which is a shop in America. I think one person asked me to get that set up, and then that one person made a purchase, and then nobody else has ever made a purchase from it. But the option's there if you want it. The Discord is getting really nice and really lively. We're getting more and more people through onto the Discord now, so consider joining the Discord as well. And I think that's about all I have to say today, so I hope you have a great rest of your day. Hopefully I'll be live streaming this evening, so please do join for that if you see that it goes live. If you're on the Discord, I'll ping the Discord as well when I go live. And apart from that, cheerio, and I hope you have, yeah, like I said, an excellent rest of your day, week, etc.